Right, so today we're going to cover a topic which is pretty widely talked about on the forums. That's the rod alloy steering head bearings. And now I've noticed over the last couple of months this steering's been getting a little bit stiffer. It's not notchy, so I think the bearings are going to be okay. I think it just needs a bit more grease and a bit more lubrication. The way you check them is with the front wheel up in the air, you move the steering side to side and it should fall side to side. Any restriction could be cables. If it's notchy, it's bearings. That's the bad point. If you're notchy, especially at this straight ahead position, that's probably your bearing gone. But we've just got a stiff movement. To show that properly, we need to jack the front of the bike up. So under here, I'll show you on this little camera. It happens to be a little bit of a H brace where a 3" by 5" block will fit perfect. So there's this little bit and this little bit, but there's this wire. That way you've got to make sure you're not going to catch. So I'll stick that on the ground. This bit of wood just goes nicely up there. Make sure you don't catch the wire. We'll just slide the jack under. Now you don't need a massive jack like this one. Even a little car wheel jack would do, but I've got this, so I may as well use it. I'm just need to jack it enough that the front wheel comes off the floor. If we push side to side, there's no notchiness, it's just a little bit stiff. So we need to get to the top head bearing and the bottom head bearing. To do that we need the Horncast off. To do that we need to take the glove box off. I've done the videos before on the glove box and the Horncast. The glove box is real simple and there's 4 bolts. Don't know if you can see or not. 4 nuts, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 8mm nuts, nice and quick. Right, then the Horncast, there's Allen key under there, 2 screws under there, 2 screws underneath the mudguard, and I've got VT for that one, so we'll have VT. So first of all, 2 little screws at the side of the tunnel. The next screw is underneath the badge. There's a little slot there. The badge jumping off, and that's an Allen key, so we'll have to get an Allen key for that one. That's Allen key. Okay, the last 2 screws under here are accessed from underneath. You can see them just there, hopefully. Just move that little flap out the way. Right, there's the 2 little screws, and this should just lift away. Looks like the rubber's staying in place. So some people just say if you just slacken off this top nut, that takes a bit of pressure off the bearing and that will free it up if it's too tight. And there's no actually, if you pull the forks backwards and forwards carefully, there's no play in it, so that's nice and tight. But the bottom bearing, which is in there, if we just drop everything down, if we drop that wheel down on the fork, we should be able to see the bearing without taking this mudguard off. We'll take the top cover off next and see if we can drop the fork down to the bottom bearing and lubricate that. 2 screws either side. The easiest first. 1, 2. Don't get these mixed up. Put them somewhere safe. Then underneath here. Right, that's a bolt. Same with the other side. So this should just lift off now. There's a big speedometer plug to take out, which you might be able to do with your thumb. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be in the way a bit. There. Right, somewhere safe. Right, so inside the headset, there's a bolt right through the centre of the fork shaft, if you want to call it that. We need to get to that one to drop the forks. Lots of wires in the way. Indicator relay, we'll just pull it off just on a little clip. Let's undo all these plugs for a bit more access. Right, I've unplugged everything, marked things up that need to be marked up. Remove the headlight now. 2 screws, 1 either side, and those 20 clips. Just a hook, which hooks in place. That's my safe, same side. It's a weird system that just holds it in place. Right, now we can clearly see the bolt that we need to undo to drop the forks down. Undo the head bearing nut, which I believe is a 32mm. Unfortunately, I ain't got a 32mm spanner yet, surprisingly. Don't have a big adjustable though, which fits. Oh, which is very, very tight. Nice. No, everything seems to be moving. That's got slacker that. Oh, see how much slacker that is. So I think it's just fallen by itself, look. So that bearing was too tight. There's a bit of plate, so that's too slack at the moment, obviously. But if we can undo this, and then we'll get that C-spanner on this collar. So that collar is what tightens up the head bearing itself. This is just a locking nut. So we've got 14mm and a 14mm nut on the back. 14mm and a 14mm. Which is also extremely stiff. Jeez, that's stiff. Right. That is absolutely rock solid. To get it moving, I had to put that on with a bar. Crazy solid. Well, at least now I've got it so it'll move. Right. That's crazy. Okay, that's the nut. The little collar there as well, we don't lose that. Now, as we undo that other collar, this collar, the whole thing should drop. As I undo this collar here, that's dropping the front wheel on the ground. And there's not much grease on them at all, you can see straight away. Just off the ground on the wheel. Right, you can see that bearing there. There's hardly any grease on it at all. Shocking. Now we've lowered that a bit further. Hopefully, oh, we're just a little bit further, oh, we're off. Right, not quite sure where we're going to put all that. Just rest it on that leg shield bar for now while I show you up here. There's that collar I was talking about. Right, they're braided cables, so we should be okay. Just gently leave that there. Right, so that's the locking nut, and that's the actual bearing nut. So we'll keep them in the right order again. And there's the bearing cover. Alright. And then there's the bearing, which, again, let me show you on this little camera. That's the bearing. And there's not much grease at all on there. Just show you that collar as well, look, that's it's like a compression raw ball type fitting. Tight. Right, just to make things a little bit easier, I'm just going to bring this front up a little bit more. Nice and carefully. And that front should just drop out a little bit more. And that pops the bearing out. So there's the top bearing. So we'll grease that up. Okay, high bearing performance grease. We'll just put some in the seat. Go down. There's not much movement at all on that. I thought they'd be a lot freer. See them starting to move now, that's better. That's better, we're getting there. So, oh, now look at it. Shocking. Right, there's loads on there. That will hopefully help. Put a little bit of grease on here to help the wires. So you can see that bearing or not under there. So I might turn it by hand, only just some grease on it. Oh, it's stiff, very stiff. Get it moving a bit. Ah, now it's moving. Now it's moving, if I can see. You can see in there as well. So it's moving now. Could hardly move that earlier. Now let's get it down nicely. So I couldn't do that earlier. I've put grease up the tube. grease on the actual bearing. I've moved the bearing so it's free. Now as we jack the wheel back up, that'll go back into the outer tube. That'll bring that up, and we'll tighten up the bearing again. I'm going to gently lower this back down a little bit, so we see the bearings come back into place. So we need to get this back on. Obviously we need to put the just cap over first. Stick the locking ring over. I'll just lay it down just a little bit so it all comes through. A bit more. That's enough. There. Alright, I need to put this back on. Very carefully. Alright. And wires out the way. Work down a bit further. Right, so now it's just a case of reverse what we did earlier. Jacks all the way down so the front's as low as it can possibly get. Might get a bit more than that. So let's tighten this up. That's quite tight. What we're looking for is a bit of movement that way on the forks. Something like that. That's definitely. Well, I haven't done that as tight as before, but that's okay. Let's pick it back up again. So that front's off the ground. Yeah, still nice and free. Give it a little bit more. Still nice and free. Appears to be no movement, so that seems pretty good. Yeah, that's nice and free. Look at that. That's falling nicely without. I know the cable's still in the way a little bit, but that's quite free. There's still no movement. That way. So I'm happy with that. So now we'll just tighten the lock nut down. Now C-spanner from the toolkit, pulling that in place. We're going to lock you don't want the locking ring to any tighter, so hold the spanner on. So really now, once we've got that nice and tight, we're happy that it's free, there's no movement on the forks. Just a case of reversing what we did earlier. We'll start with the bolt and this compression type fitting. Just keep it up out the way. Can't believe how tight that was. Carefully tighten up this headset locking up. That 40mm set up. I don't know, right tight before. Yeah. Don't want to tighten it. Oh, does need to be compressed still. So I'd say that was pretty tight. So a quick feel. So everything is locked tight. Now okay, so just plugging everything back in as we did before. Starting with the headlamp and this adjustables. We'll slide that in there first. Stick this little bolt to keep it in place so it won't fall out. So this just pulls headlamp. This is a peculiar setup, it really is. Nice. This headlight's screwed in place now, it's just a case of plugging everything back in. So I've colour coded everything, which helps. Really good, really good. I've got the speed sensor, which is there. What's in there? Let's see. Speedometer. This. Speedometer. Light in this room. Speed. Let's get rid of that. You put the buzzer in there. Nice. Alright, so this to go on next. Make sure that clip goes over the chrome clip. Plug that in first. There we go. Easy that way. Just put the tap in first. Before I put Horncast on the glove box, I'm going to quickly nip up and down the road, give it a quick road test, make sure everything's okay, make sure the steering's still nice and light, make sure when you brake there's no jolting or giving. Then we know we're happy, we can box everything back up. The hard part is getting this collar at the right tightness. It's got to be tight, but without restricting that steering. Obviously if it's too loose, you're going to be in trouble. If in any doubt at all, even if it's just this last little bit, take it to a mechanic and he'll set it out for you. It's really important that that is set properly. But for now, yeah, I think we're done. Please give me a thumbs up if you found it useful. There's not much out there on YouTube on the head bearings, even though it's a real common problem. And to keep in touch and see more videos on the Royal Alloy, please consider subscribing to the channel.